Hello and welcome. I'm Ed Milan from HotLink. Today I'd like to introduce you to HotLink DR Express 3.5 for comprehensive VMware data protection in Amazon Web Services, and the only solution providing VMware business continuity in AWS at basic backup prices. In addition, I will review the new HotLink software-defined networking, and you will get to see this technology in action. Today's data protection solutions range from basic backup to hot business continuity, and cost is a major driver in which option is practical for any given workload. Outside of mission-critical services, backup and replication are the only affordable options for most VMware workloads. Backup, however, does have a few drawbacks. It needs to be shipped off-site, restore times are long, testing is infrequent, and importantly, standby hardware is required. Our goal for DR Express was to democratize business continuity by leveraging the public cloud so that all VMware workloads have the benefit of rapid recovery, but at a price point that's affordable. HotLink DR Express is the only VMware vCenter business continuity plugin for AWS to seamlessly extend your on-premise VMware environment to include comprehensive protection in AWS. Spanning backup, replication, disaster recovery, and business continuity, HotLink DR Express enables you to recover in minutes in AWS from an on-premise VMware failure. Best of all, AWS workloads remain fully manageable by VMware vCenter, side by side with on-premise vSphere host and virtual machines. This simple yet elegant approach is made possible through HotLink's one-of-a-kind transformation technology, which I will tell you more about. Here's how it works. HotLink's patented transformation makes it seamless. On the left is your existing on-premise virtual infrastructure, already running vSphere and vCenter on top of pre-configured networking. Once you indicate which VMware virtual machine to protect, HotLink DR Express will seed your virtual machine and on an ongoing basis upload the virtual machine deltas to AWS S3. At the time of disaster or for a periodic test cycle, you indicate which restore point you want. HotLink's unique transformation technology automatically converts your protected VMware virtual machine into AWS instances for seamless recovery in any AWS region or even multiple AWS regions within minutes. Important to mention that an automated part of the restore into AWS includes configuring the hybrid SDN, meaning on-premise networking is seamlessly and pre-configured in the new restored instances. By allowing you to mirror your on-premise configuration into the instances as they are launched, all application tiers will come up and run as if no disruption took place. HotLink DR Express, the only solution that can provide VMware business continuity in AWS, plus intuitively and seamlessly managing the end-to-end data protection environment using VMware vCenter. Bar none, HotLink DR Express provides the easiest setup, maintenance, and testing of any business continuity solution. We have fully automated VMware business continuity in the Amazon public cloud with configurable recovery point objectives per service or virtual machine. This includes bidirectional workload conversion between VMware and AWS. In this release, we have introduced important software-defined networking features. HotLink's simple SDN allows you in advance to discover AWS networking and use it to mirror your on-premise environment. By pre-configuring network per virtual machine, you will be able to restore the application tiers automatically and the application tiers which will start uninterrupted as if a disaster never happened, thus shortening your RTO restore time objective. With testing being fundamental to a viable disaster recovery business continuity plan, in this release we've added the ability to set up a dedicated testing configuration which allows you to mimic what you have in production for testing purposes and enable continuous testing. Testing is as simple as restoring from a virtual snapshot and is also fully automated and integrated to vCenter. To sum it up, HotLink DR Express is the most economical VMware business continuity and data protection solution available. Costing only $300 per VM per year, it is fully integrated into VMware vCenter, enabling seamless operations, easy testing, and intuitive use. By using Amazon as the VMware mirrored site, no extra hardware is required, significantly reducing the cost of comprehensive data protection and making business continuity practical for all virtual machines, not only an elite few. Lastly, the HotLink transformation technology makes using Amazon as simple as your existing VMware environment. All this sounds good, but seeing is believing. Let's start with the demo. I already deployed and configured the 4 virtual machines required for DR Express. DR Express is distributed as an OVF, so all you need to do is import it into any vSphere host and configure your AWS account, both of which are well described in the Getting Started guide you will receive. The IP that I'm using here is the IP address for the HotLink EC2 agent VM. From now onwards, it will be your proxy to AWS and all the data the EC2 agent gathers directly from AWS, which will be automatically transformed so that vCenter will display it as if it were a vSphere host. The AWS instances and AMIs will automatically appear under a new EC2 host as if they were on-premise VMs. As you can see, the AMIs are initially shown as VMs, but within a few seconds, they are converted to templates. Let's add the DR Express host as well. The IP we are using is the IP given to the DR Express VM. Once added, this host will be showing all the VMs we protect. With all configurations done and both hosts added, we can start protecting virtual machines. Enabling protection is done simply by selecting the VM you want to protect and marking the protection checkbox. By default, we set the RPO to 60 minutes, but you can choose to change it. If you are protecting big VMs, I recommend that you set the RPO time to 240 minutes and allow the C to upload. Once you see the ID completed, you'll be able to change the RPO to a smaller value. Unless changed, consolidation of all updates will take place every 24 hours. You can choose to modify it to run more frequently if needed. Lastly, you can choose to expire older restore points. By setting expiration to any restore point older than, let's say, 2 days, DR Express will keep full restore points for 2 days and automatically purge all the older ones. Since consolidated restore points are the equivalent of your daily backup, you may choose to set a different expiration for them. Here I set them to 3 more days, which in turn allows me to have a total of 5 days. Let's save that configuration and continue. I'm going to protect a few more VMs. As you can see, the configuration can vary from virtual machine to virtual machine. You have the flexibility to choose and protect each VM separately and set the retaining policy by VM, which really means that same VM you can choose to protect and keep for just a few days, while other VMs you can choose to protect and keep all changes for weeks. As we mark these virtual machines for protection, the HotLink synchronizer will automatically start seeding the virtual machines to a pre-configured S3 bucket. All of the synchronization is automated and takes place as the virtual machine is marked for protection. Depending on the size of the virtual machine, it may take a few hours to complete. In this case, I let the virtual machines complete the seeding as well as gather a few restore points over the last 2 days, so that we can see how it actually works. By clicking on the Protected Virtual Machine status menu, we see how the protection is progressing. The VMs completed the seeding, and now we're uploading virtual machine changes to S3 following the RPO set. The virtual machines we set to retain more restore point history show a long tail of restore points, while other VMs configured to only keep 1 day show a short list of restore points. That same view is also visible in the Snapshot Manager for the protected VMs. To make it intuitive and easy, we leverage the underlying Snapshot Manager to represent the restore points. I'll show you a few of the VMs and their respective history of restore points. As before, following the same configuration have many restore points while others do not. One more feature that you will be surely to use is the ability to schedule a restore point. As you can see by clicking on the scheduler icon, you can set a particular time to take a restore point, which is added to the already existing routine. This feature will help you protect your virtual machine and keep it in AWS before you do any major changes to them. Another important feature is the ability to set networking up. I mentioned earlier that we auto-discover AWS networking for you, and here you can see that we pre-populated all fields with the VPC config we discovered in your account. Amazon VPC lets you provision a logical isolated section of the Amazon Web Services cloud where you can launch an AWS resource in a virtual network that you define. Start by choosing the VPC you want to use for testing. Following that, choose the subnet and the security group you plan on using for testing. Then enter the IP address you want the virtual machine to be launched with. This setup is required for testing and separately for a restore in time of disaster. Entering the network configuration per virtual machine in advance will not only allow the restored instance to use it, but more importantly, launch the application tiers in a configuration that will ensure the application will continue running as it did on-premise. Restoring any of the protected virtual machines is intuitive and simple. I'll start by opening Snapshot Manager, choosing the restore point from which to restore. I assume that in most cases you will restore from the latest successful restore point, but you may choose older ones as you could require. While we're at it, I've restored a second virtual machine as well. Restoring each VM is done in parallel by a restore instance running in AWS, so you will not have the hardware constraint you run into today. This particular restore took around 30 minutes, and the VM automatically appeared under the EC2 host and is ready to power up and run as it did on-premise. Lastly, in the DR lifecycle, as you fix your on-premise hardware and are ready to restore operations back on-premise, you can choose to clone the AWS instance from AWS back on-premise. To do this, all you need to follow is the cloning wizard. Start by selecting the virtual machine you want to bring back on-premise, set the VM name you want to use and choose. Continue by choosing the vSphere host you want it cloned to, then select the data store to use for this virtual machine, and finish. A cloning task from AWS back on-premise has now started. In this case, it took just around 2 hours, and the VM was ready to run on-premise. I hope you have enjoyed this demonstration of HotLink DR Express version 3.5. For more product information, weekly webinar dates and times, and white papers, go to www.hotlink.com. Thank you.